Welcome back. Well, Realtor's office in Sioux City is sharing more than just a cup of coffee and conversation in the break room. They're giving the gift of life to each other with kidney donations. KTIV's Taylor Deckert has more in tonight's Health Beat 4.
I didn't even think about it. It was just like I just knew I had to do it.
A unique bond three coworkers share on the journey of giving the gift of life through kidney donation. It all started with a call to action for team leader at CW Siouxland, Chris Delfs.
There was another agent that needed a kidney, and when I had heard about that, I signed up and started the screening process. The end result was I was able to make the donation on behalf of another agent at KW in New Jersey, and she was able to receive a kidney the same day.
He didn't tell the office about his donation until after he was back from the hospital.
He got back and we had a meeting, leadership meeting, and we were talking through stuff, and he said, I gave this kidney to, a gal in New Jersey, and everything went really well. And I'm sitting there going, well, that's ironic. So I said, well, that's funny. I'm going to need a kidney very soon.
And that's when his coworker, Teresa Weaver, comes in. She answered the call and donated her kidney on behalf of managing broker Kevin Archer.
And I didn't even think about it, just instantly. As soon as I watched the video, I found out where he was registered, so I went online immediately and just started filling it out.
How this worked, someone can donate a kidney to someone else on your behalf.
Even if they're not a match, and what that will do is allow that person that needs to receive the kidney to be bumped up on the list in order to get it at the same time that the donor makes their donation as well.
Kevin says KW Siouxland is people-centric, and the kindness shown in this office of putting people first paid off.
Little did I know that 9 years later, that culture of giving and family and all that would end up saving my life.
For Health Beat 4, Taylor Deckert, KTIV News 4.
And you can learn more about kidney donation and how to start the process in the story. We have the information for you on KTIV.com.